What would you do if strangers had more integrity than your own family? If a moving company owner you'd never met refused to help your son steal from you, while that same son had spent months calling you incompetent and forcing you out of your home, would you trust the stranger? Call the police? Or would you do what I did? Ask him to document everything, play along with my son's plan, and build a case so airtight that Marcus would never see it coming until it was far too late. The call came at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning. I was sitting in my beige room at Meadowbrook Assisted Living, drinking instant coffee from a styrofoam cup and pretending the view of the parking lot was somehow equivalent to the garden I'd tended for 47 years. My phone, the cell phone Marcus had insisted I didn't need, but that I'd kept anyway, buzzed with an unknown local number. I almost didn't answer. Unknown numbers at 6:47 a.m. were never good news, but something made me pick up. Maybe intuition, maybe desperation, maybe just the fact that any voice was better than another morning of silence. Mrs. Patterson? The voice was male, probably 50s, with a slight accent I couldn't quite place. My name is Mike Rodriguez. I own Atlas Moving Company here in Portland. Ma'am, I'm calling because your son Marcus just tried to hire my crew to empty your house today, and I need to ask you something very important. Did you give him permission to do that? My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. No, absolutely not. That's what I thought. There was something in his voice, not triumph, but a grim satisfaction, like a man who'd just confirmed a suspicion he'd hoped was wrong. Mrs. Patterson, your son called me at 5:30 this morning, saying he needed an emergency full house cleanout, said his mother. You had been moved to memory care, and the family needed to clear the property before the end of the month. He specifically requested that we box everything, load everything, and deliver it all to a storage facility. The whole house, top to bottom, in one day. Memory care? My voice came out sharper than I'd intended. I don't have dementia. I was forced into assisted living against my will. There's a difference. I'm starting to see that. Mike's voice had gone quiet, careful. Ma'am, when your son described the job, something didn't sit right with me. He was too eager, too specific about doing it fast while you were settled in your new place. He mentioned changing locks, mentioned that you wouldn't be there, mentioned that the house was finally going to be dealt with. It sounded less like a son helping his mother, and more like, well, I've been in this business for 28 years, Mrs. Patterson. I've seen families clean out elderly relatives' homes before. Usually the elderly relative is either present and consenting, or they've passed away. Your son made it sound like you're alive but irrelevant. I felt tears sting my eyes. A stranger understood what my own son refused to see. What did you tell him? I asked. I told him I needed to verify some details and I'd call him back within the hour. Then I looked up your name, found your home address from his job request, cross-referenced it with property records, and found your phone number listed. Patterson, I'm calling you because I need to hear it directly from you. Did you authorize anyone to remove your belongings from your home? No, I've explicitly told Marcus not to touch anything. I have a lawyer who sent him a cease and desist letter. I've made it abundantly clear that I do not consent to anyone entering my property or moving my possessions. There was a long pause. I heard what sounded like Mike talking to someone else in the background, his hand partially covering the phone. Then he was back. Mrs. Patterson, I'm not a lawyer, but what your son is asking me to do sounds like theft. And Atlas Moving doesn't help people steal. We're going to decline this job. But ma'am, I think you need to know if we say no, he's just going to call another company. Maybe one that doesn't ask questions, maybe one that doesn't care. My heart was racing now. What do you suggest? Another pause, longer this time. When Mike spoke again, his voice was deliberate, like he'd made a decision and was committed to seeing it through. I suggest we document everything. I'm going to call your son back and tell him we can do the job, but not until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. That gives you time to get legal protection in place, maybe police presence, whatever you need. In the meantime, I'm going to record every conversation I have with him. If he's asking us to remove property without the owner's consent, that's a crime, and you'll have evidence. What do you think? What did I think? I thought that Marcus had finally gone too far. I thought that this stranger was offering me something my own family hadn't given me in months: respect and belief. I thought that maybe, just maybe, I'd found an unexpected ally. Mr. Rodriguez. Call me Mike. Mike, why are you doing this? You don't know me. You're losing a $2,100 job. Why not just take my son's money and move on? Because I have a mother, Mrs. Patterson. She's 81, lives alone, sharp as a tack, but my sister keeps trying to convince her to sell her house and move into a facility. If my sister ever tried to clean out my mom's place without permission, I'd want someone to stop her. This is me stopping your son. I couldn't speak for a moment. This stranger, this moving company owner, had more integrity in one phone call than my son had shown in 6 months of controlling behavior. Thank you, I whispered. Please, do what you said. Delay him. Document everything. I'll call my lawyer right now. One more thing, Mike said. Your son mentioned he's planning to change the locks again today. Said something about getting a locksmith at noon. You might want to address that too. After we hung up, I sat there shaking. Not from fear, but from the overwhelming relief of finally having someone on my side. Someone who saw through Marcus's justifications and recognized them for what they were: lies to cover theft. I called Margaret Chen, my attorney, before the sun was fully up. Betty? It's not even 7. Marcus hired movers to empty my house. The owner just called to verify my permission. When I said no, he offered to document everything and delay the job so I can get legal protection in place. There was a beat of silence. Then Margaret's voice came back sharp and awake. Give me his number. I'm calling him right now. And Betty, this changes everything. This is attempted theft with premeditation. Marcus just handed us a criminal case. 15 minutes later, Margaret called back. I just spoke with Mike Rodriguez. Impressive man. He's agreed to record all conversations with Marcus, delay the job until tomorrow, and testify if needed. I'm filing an emergency injunction this morning. By noon, Marcus won't be able to enter your property or remove a single item. I'm also calling Detective Morrison. She's been following your case since the guardianship attempt. This gives her probable cause for criminal charges. Will it hold up? What if Marcus just hires another company? Let him try. We're putting alerts on your property with every major moving company in Portland. If he calls anyone else, they'll be informed. There's an active legal dispute, and any removal of items would be participation in theft. Mike Rodriguez is also reaching out to other owners in his professional network. Marcus is about to learn that good people talk to each other. I felt something unfamiliar bloom in my chest. Not hope exactly, but possibility. The certainty that I wasn't helpless, wasn't alone, wasn't crazy for thinking what Marcus was doing was wrong. Margaret, what happens when Marcus realizes the movers aren't coming today? Oh, he doesn't know that yet. Mike is calling him at 8 to say there's a scheduling conflict, and they need to push to tomorrow. He's going to sound apologetic, professional, completely believable. Meanwhile, we're getting legal protection in place. By the time Marcus figures out what's happening, it'll be too late. After I hung up with Margaret, I called my neighbor Carol. Carol, I need you to watch my house today. Marcus might try something. I'm already watching, Carol said, and I heard the smile in her voice. Betty, I've had my cameras pointed at your place for weeks. If that boy tries anything, I've got it recorded from 3 angles. You're a treasure. I'm a nosy neighbor with good instincts and better technology. Now go drink your terrible Meadowbrook coffee and let me do surveillance. At 8:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. Injunction filed. Judge Anderson reviewing now. Should have ruling by 10 a.m. At 8:47, a text from Mike Rodriguez. Called your son. Told him we had an equipment breakdown and need to reschedule for tomorrow, 8 a.m. He was frustrated but agreed. Recording attached. There was an audio file. I listened to it with shaking hands. Marcus's voice, impatient and entitled, "This is really inconvenient. I've already changed the locks and I need this done before my mother tries to come back." Mike's response, perfectly professional. I understand, sir. We'll have a full crew there tomorrow morning. Everything will be handled. And then, after Marcus hung up, Mike's voice speaking to someone else. Did you get all that? A woman's voice. Every word. This guy's a piece of work. At 10:23 a.m., Margaret called. Judge Anderson granted the emergency injunction. Effective immediately. Marcus is prohibited from entering your property, changing locks, removing any items, or hiring anyone to do so on his behalf. Violation results in immediate arrest for contempt of court. I'm having the order served on him within the hour. Betty, we've got him. I sat in my beige room and let myself feel everything I'd been holding back for 6 months. The violation, the betrayal, the crushing weight of being dismissed by your own child. But also, and this was new, the vindication, the proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't overreacting, wasn't the problem. At 11:47 a.m., Carol texted, "Police just delivered something to Marcus's house." He came outside, read it, went pale. Now he's on the phone pacing his driveway. Want the video? Yes, please. The video showed exactly what Carol described. Marcus, standing in his driveway in pajama pants and a wrinkled t-shirt, holding what was clearly legal paperwork, his face draining of color as he read. Then the phone call, his free hand gesturing wildly, his mouth moving in what I imagine were frantic justifications to whoever he was calling. Probably Diane, possibly a lawyer. At 12:15 p.m., Marcus called me. I let it ring. He called again at 12:18, again at 12:22. At 12:30, he left a voicemail. "Mom, what did you do? I just got served with some court order saying I can't enter your house. This is insane. I'm trying to help you. The house needs to be cleared out. You're not coming back. You can't take care of yourself, and someone needs to handle your affairs. Why are you making this so difficult? Call me back. We need to talk about this like adults." Like adults. As if I were the child throwing a tantrum. As if his plan to steal my belongings was somehow the mature, responsible choice. I deleted the voicemail without responding. At 1:03 p.m., Mike Rodriguez called again. "Mrs. Patterson, thought you'd want to know your son just called me back. Very agitated, asking if I'd told you about the move." I played dumb, said I had no idea what he was talking about. We just had an equipment issue. He tried to cancel the job entirely. I told him that was fine, but we'd need to charge the cancellation fee per our contract. He hung up on me. He knows something's wrong. He knows he got caught. "But Betty, may I call you Betty?" I agreed. "Betty, he doesn't know how much you know. He doesn't know I called you. He doesn't know I've been documenting everything. He just knows his plan fell apart, and he's scrambling. That's when people make mistakes." What kind of mistakes? The kind that create more evidence. The kind that prove intent. If I were you, I'd sit tight. Let your lawyer handle this, and watch your son dig himself deeper trying to fix what can't be fixed. Mike was right. Over the next 6 hours, Marcus made every mistake possible. He called a locksmith, recorded by Carol's cameras, and tried to get back into my house. The locksmith, properly licensed and careful, asked for proof of ownership. Marcus had none. The locksmith left. He called another moving company, flagged by Margaret's network alert, and again tried to arrange an emergency cleanout. This company also called me to verify. When I said no, they declined the job and sent their conversation with Marcus to my lawyer. He showed up at Meadowbrook at 4:30 p.m., demanding to see me. The staff, following my standing instructions established with Margaret's help, informed him that I had declined all visits from him. He tried to argue, raised his voice, caused enough of a scene that security asked him to leave. Carol filmed that too. By 6 p.m. I had a documented record of Marcus attempting to violate the court order multiple times in a single day. Margaret was gleeful when I sent her everything. "This is better than I hoped. Betty, your son is panicking, and panic makes people stupid. Every attempt to get into that house is another contempt charge. Every lie to moving companies is more evidence of intent to steal. Every aggressive visit to your facility is more proof of harassment. He's building our case for us. What happens now? Now we file criminal charges, grand theft, attempted theft, elder abuse, harassment, contempt of court. And Betty, we go after the house. What do you mean? Your house is paid off, correct? In your name only? Yes. Marcus has been treating it like it's his, acting like he has the right to manage it. Clear it out. Make decisions about it. I'm betting he's been planning to force you to sign it over or claim it as an inheritance once he got guardianship. But you're competent, you're alive, and you own that property. I'm filing for an emergency order barring him from the premises, requiring return of all keys, and demanding he provide an accounting of anything he's already removed or altered. He changed the locks without your permission, which is illegal. He's going to have to pay to change them back to your specifications. Every cent of damage or alteration, he owes you. And Betty, we're going to make him pay every single cent. That night, alone in my beige room, I thought about Mike Rodriguez, this stranger who'd done more to protect me in one day than my son had done in months, who'd risked losing a profitable job because it was the right thing to do, who'd called me when he could have just taken the money and looked the other way. I thought about the phrase blood is thicker than water, and how I'd always interpreted it to mean family comes first. But I'd learned recently that the full phrase is actually the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, meaning the bonds you choose are stronger than the bonds of birth. Mike Rodriguez had chosen to protect a stranger. Marcus had chosen to betray his mother. I knew which bond mattered more, but this was just the beginning. The real confrontation was still to come. And I had a feeling Marcus had no idea just how badly he'd miscalculated. The confrontation came 24 hours after the injunction was served. Marcus showed up at Meadowbrook at 8 a.m., this time with Diane, both looking like they hadn't slept. The front desk called my room. Mrs. Patterson, your son and daughter-in-law are here. They're very insistent about seeing you. Should I call security? I thought about it. Part of me wanted to hide, to avoid the confrontation, to let Margaret handle everything through legal channels. But another part, the part that had been growing stronger over these past weeks, wanted to face them, wanted to watch them try to justify the unjustifiable. Tell them I'll meet them in the common area. 15 minutes, and please have someone from staff present. I dressed carefully. Not the sweatpants and t-shirt I'd been living in, but real clothes. The navy blouse Marcus had always complimented, the pearl earrings Robert had given me for our 30th anniversary. I brushed my hair, put on lipstick, stood up straight. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't incompetent. I wasn't a problem to be solved. I was a woman defending her home, her rights, and her dignity. When I walked into the common area, Marcus and Diane were sitting on the cheap floral couch, both turning to watch me approach. A Meadowbrook staff member, a young woman named Keisha, who'd been kind to me since day one, stood discreetly near the coffee machine. Mom. Marcus stood up, tried to hug me. I stepped back. Sit down, Marcus. He sat. I took the armchair across from them, maintaining physical distance, maintaining control. You got my calls? Marcus started. Mom, we need to talk about this court order. It's insane. I'm just trying to help you, and you're treating me like a criminal. You are a criminal, I said calmly. You attempted to hire movers to empty my house without my consent. That's theft. It's not theft if I'm doing it to help you. Did I ask for help? You shouldn't have to ask. Mom, you're 72 years old. You fell. You can't live alone in that big house. Someone has to step up and make adult decisions. I am the adult in this situation, Marcus. You're the child who's decided he knows better than his mother without bothering to actually listen to what his mother wants. Diane leaned forward. Betty, you're not being rational. We've talked to doctors, therapists, elder care specialists. Have you talked to my doctor? The one who says I'm perfectly competent? Have you talked to my therapist? The one I don't have because I don't need one? Or have you just talked to people who confirmed what you already decided was true, that I'm too old to manage my own life? We're trying to protect you. From what? From living in my own home? For making my own choices? Diane, you're not repaying me. You're controlling me. There's a difference. Marcus rubbed his face, and for the first time I saw not anger, but desperation. Mom, the house. It's too much. It's too big, too old, too expensive to maintain. We're worried about you being there alone, about accidents, about you not being able to call for help. So, install a medical alert system. Hire a part-time helper if you're concerned. There are dozens of solutions that don't involve forcing me out of my home and stealing my belongings. But you didn't want solutions, Marcus. You wanted me gone. Why? He looked away. Diane stared at her lap, and in that silence, I saw the truth. You want the house, I said quietly. You've wanted it for years, ever since property values in our neighborhood started going up, ever since your friends started asking how much it's worth. You don't want to help me. You want access to my most valuable asset. That's not. Marcus started. Don't lie to me. My voice was sharp now, harder than I'd ever used with him. I've seen the property valuation emails in the trash. I've heard you and Diane discussing what you do with the place after Mom's gone. I've watched you treat my home like it's already yours. So don't sit there and tell me this is about my safety. This is about your inheritance. And you couldn't wait for me to die naturally. So you decided to bury me alive in this facility and take what you wanted. Diane's face flushed red. You have no right to talk to us like that. We've done everything for you. We've sacrificed our time, our energy, our peace of mind worrying about you. And this is how you repay us? With lawyers and court orders and accusations. What have you sacrificed? I asked. Specifically, what have you actually done for me in the past year? Silence. I can tell you what you've taken. You've taken my keys. You've taken my belongings. You've taken my autonomy. You've taken my right to live in my own home. You've tried to take my legal rights through that guardianship petition. But what have you given? Visits every few months? Phone calls when you need something? The generous gift of your disapproval and disappointment? We moved you here, Diane snapped. We found this facility, we paid the first month. We set everything up, against my will. You kidnapped me, Diane. You took me from my home and installed me in this place without my consent. That's not help. That's imprisonment. Marcus stood up suddenly, started pacing. What was I supposed to do? Wait for you to fall again and not be able to get up? Wait for you to have a stroke alone in that house? Wait for something terrible to happen because I was too worried about your feelings to act? You were supposed to talk to me. I stood up too, faced him. You were supposed to say, Mom, I'm worried. Can we talk about options? You were supposed to treat me like an adult, capable of participating in decisions about my own life. Instead, you decided I was incompetent, and you were right, and you moved forward with your plan regardless of my explicitly stated wishes. That's not love, Marcus. That's tyranny. I'm your son. I have a responsibility to respect me, to believe me when I tell you I'm fine, to trust my judgment about my own capabilities. You have a responsibility to support me, not control me. And you failed. You chose control. You chose access to my assets over my dignity. And now you're facing the consequences. Keisha, the staff member, had moved closer during our raised voices. She was watching Marcus carefully, probably ready to call security if he got aggressive. Marcus saw her and took a breath, forced himself to calm down. Mom, please, let's not do this. Let's not destroy our family over a house. You can stay here. We'll visit regularly. We'll make sure you're taken care of. I don't want to stay here. I want to go home, to my home. That you have no right to. You can't live alone. Watch me. The court order, Diane said suddenly, her voice tight. It says you can't remove items from the house. But Betty, what about the things we've already stored? The boxes we moved last month? I went very still. What boxes? They looked at each other. Marcus's face went pale. What boxes, Marcus? Just some excess items. Things you weren't using. We put them in a storage unit. Make the house safer. Without my permission. while I was at my lawyer's office, the theft I already filed a police report about. That wasn't theft. That was... Detective Morrison has the security footage of you loading my belongings into a truck. She has the storage unit receipts showing you rented space in your name but for my property. Marcus, you've already committed one theft. Attempting the second one with the moving company is what's going to send you to prison. Prison? Diane's voice went shrill. You're going to put your own son in Riven over things. No, the law is going to put him in prison for theft. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen to spare your feelings. Marcus sank back onto the couch, head in his hands. Mom, please, I made mistakes. I get that. But we can fix this. I'll return everything from storage. I'll give you back the keys. I'll leave the house alone. Just drop the charges. Don't do this. Why shouldn't I? Because I'm your son. His voice cracked. Because I love you, even if I showed it wrong. Because destroying me won't give you back what you lost. Because... He looked up, tears in his eyes. Because I'm scared, Mom. I'm scared of losing you. I'm scared of not being there when you need me. I'm scared of getting a call that you fell or got hurt or died alone. And yes, I handled it wrong. I know that now. But it came from fear, not malice. For just a moment I saw him as he'd been at 8 years old, crying because he'd accidentally broken a neighbor's window with a baseball. Scared of consequences, scared of disappointing me, but still fundamentally my little boy. But that little boy had grown into a man who'd stolen from his mother, who'd lied to authorities, who'd tried to strip away her legal rights. And fear doesn't excuse that. Marcus, I was scared too. Scared of losing my home, scared of being declared incompetent, scared of my own son treating me like an obstacle instead of a person. And unlike you, I didn't respond to my fear by violating anyone's rights. So what happens now? Diane asked. You just, what? Destroy us? Take everything? Watch us lose our house because we can't afford lawyers? What happens now is you face consequences for your actions. The criminal charges move forward. The civil suit for the items you've already stolen proceeds. And you learn that elderly people have rights, that parents deserve respect, and that good intentions don't excuse illegal behavior. I stood up. The conversation was over. Mom, wait. Marcus reached for my arm. Keisha stepped forward immediately. Don't touch me, I said quietly. You lost the right to touch me when you put your hands on my belongings without permission. I walked away, heard Diane sobbing, heard Marcus pleading, heard Keisha firmly telling them they needed to leave. And I felt not victorious, not happy, just exhausted and sad and absolutely certain that I'd done the only thing I could do. Back in my room, I called Margaret. How did it go? Marcus admitted they already removed items last month, admitted renting a storage unit. Diane asked what happens to the things they've already stored. Margaret, they confessed. In front of a witness, Meadowbrook staff was present the whole time. Betty, you beautiful genius. Get me a written statement from that staff member. Every word they said, everything they admitted. This case just got even easier. After we hung up, I sat on my bed and looked around my beige room. This place wasn't home. It would never be home. But soon, very soon, I was going back to my real home, the house Marcus couldn't take from me, the life he couldn't control. And if he ended up in prison as a result of his own choices, that was his consequence to bear, not mine. Mike Rodriguez became an unexpected regular in my life. Over the next 2 weeks, he'd call every few days, updating me on Marcus's increasingly desperate attempts to find someone, anyone who would help him empty my house. He called JJ's moving yesterday, Mike told me during one of our conversations, offered them double rate for same-day service. When they called me to check, we're in the same professional association. I told them about the court order. They declined the job and documented his offer. Betty, your son has now contacted 17 different moving companies. All 17 have refused and reported him. 17. He's working his way through every listing in the Portland area. Some of the guys are starting to get annoyed at the repeat calls. Your son isn't taking rejection well. What's he saying to them? The story keeps changing. First it was my mother's in memory care. Then it became my mother gave permission but she's forgetful. Now it's there's been a family misunderstanding, and I have every right to access the property. But Betty, here's the interesting thing in each version, he admits the house is yours, the belongings are yours, and you're alive and competent. He's not even trying to claim he has legal authority, because he doesn't. Exactly. And every moving company owner he calls is creating a record. These are small business owners who talk cack each other, who value integrity, who've seen elder abuse before. Your son thought he'd find someone who'd just take his money and not ask questions. He's learning that most people are better than that. During one of these conversations, Mike mentioned something that changed my perspective entirely. Betty, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why do you think your son is so desperate to empty your house right now? I mean, you're in assisted living. You're alive. You're competent. The house isn't going anywhere. Why the urgency? I've been wondering the same thing. I don't know. Margaret thinks it's about control, about not wanting me to have access to my belongings. Maybe. But in my experience, when people are this frantic about clearing out a property, there's usually a financial reason. Debt they need to pay. Money they think they can make. Something driving the timeline. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mike's words kept running through my mind. What if this wasn't just about control? What if Marcus needed money? The next morning, I called Carol. Carol, I need you to do some investigating for me. Oh good, I was getting bored just doing surveillance. What do you need? Marcus's financial situation. Can you find out if he's in debt? If they're struggling? Honey, I have a sister-in-law who's a realtor and a nephew who works at the county assessor's office. Give me 24 hours. Carol called back in 18 hours. Betty, sit down for this. Marcus and Diane took out a home equity line of credit on their house 6 months ago. $75,000. It's at variable rate and the payments just jumped by $800. They're also 3 months behind on their SUV payment, 2 months behind on credit cards, and this is the big one. They owe $47,000 in back taxes to the IRS. My stomach sank. How do you know all this? My nephew can access public records. The tax lien is public information. The home equity loan is recorded with the county. The vehicle stuff I got from my realtor, sister-in-law, who has connections at the dealership. Betty, your son is drowning in debt, and he thinks my house is the solution. Your house is worth, what, $800,000 in the current market? He sells that, he clears his debts, and has money left over. That's why he's desperate. He's not just trying to control you, he's trying to save himself financially on your dime. I called Margaret immediately. I need you to run a full financial background on Marcus. I think he's in serious debt, and that's driving his behavior. Margaret called back 3 hours later. Betty, your instincts were right. Marcus is in financial freefall. The home equity line was to cover credit card debt. The credit card debt was from lifestyle spending beyond their means. The tax debt is from improperly filed returns 3 years running. And here's the worst part. He took out a personal loan last month for $25,000 at 18%. From where? One of those predatory lenders, the kind that targets desperate people. Betty, he's looking at bankruptcy within 6 months, unless he gets a major influx of cash. And my house would provide that cash. Your house would solve all his problems, which is why he's been so aggressive about getting you out and getting control of the property. This isn't just about thinking you're incompetent. This is about his financial survival. Does he think I'd just give him the house? He probably thought he'd get guardianship. Prove you couldn't manage your affairs. Convince a court to let him sell the property for your care and pocket the difference. When that didn't work, he moved to plan B, force you out. Empty the house and worry about legalities later. Betty, your son isn't just stealing your belongings. He's trying to steal your financial security to pay for his mistakes. That night, I couldn't eat dinner, just sat in my room thinking about the son I'd raised. The boy who'd been so careful with his allowance, who'd saved for months to buy his first bicycle, who'd understood the value of money because we'd never had much when he was young. What had happened to that boy? When had careful become greedy? When had responsible become entitled? When had my son, who I'd taught to value what he had, started viewing his mother's assets as his solution? My phone rang. Unknown number again. But I recognized the area code. Mrs. Patterson, this is Tom Chen from 5-Star Moving. I know you've been dealing with your son's attempts to hire movers. I'm calling because he just offered my company $5,000 cash to empty your house tomorrow. When I said we couldn't do that without owner permission, he told me you have dementia and can't make legal decisions. Ma'am, I called because I wanted you to know he's now lying about your mental state to moving companies. That seems like something you and your lawyer should know. Thank you, Tom. You're right, we need to know this. Can you document his exact words? Already done. Recorded the whole call. Happy to provide it to your attorney. After Tom hung up, I forwarded his contact information to Margaret. Then I called Mike Rodriguez. Mike, he's escalating. Now he's telling moving companies I have dementia. I heard. Tom Chen called me right after he called you. Betty, the moving community in Portland is small. Word spreads fast. Your son has now burned bridges with every reputable company in the area. He's going to start looking at unlicensed operators, the guys who work off Craigslist, the ones who don't ask questions and don't carry insurance. Can we stop him? Not unless he actually hires someone. But Betty, when he does, when those guys show up at your house with a truck and start loading, they're going to be breaking the law. And if we have people there documenting it, he's going to have even more charges added to his case. You're suggesting we let him try? I'm suggesting we prepare for him to try. Your neighbor with the cameras, your lawyer with the injunction, maybe even police presence if you can arrange it. Let him make the attempt. Let him prove that he'll break any law to get what he wants. That's what juries remember. 2 days later, Carol called in a panic. Betty, there's a truck in your driveway. Not a professional moving truck, just a rental U-Haul. Marcus is there with 3 guys I don't recognize. They're trying to get in the front door. Call the police. Tell them there's an active breaking and entering, that there's a court order prohibiting this. Already done. They're on the way. Betty, should I confront them? No. Just record everything. Stay safe. I called Margaret. She called Detective Morrison. Within 15 minutes, I had a 3-way call with both of them, while Carol sent real-time updates and video. They're at the back door now. One guy has bolt cutters. Marcus is directing them. Officers are 2 minutes out, Detective Morrison said. Betty, don't worry. We've got this. Carol's next message was a video. The police rolling up. Lights flashing. Marcus's face when he realized he'd been caught. The 3 men with him immediately backing away, hands up, claiming they didn't know this was illegal. But Marcus had no such defense. He'd hired them. He'd brought the tools. He directed the break-in. Detective Morrison came to Meadowbrook 2 hours later with paperwork. Marcus Patterson has been arrested for attempted burglary, violation of a court order, and criminal trespass. The 3 men with him are being charged as accomplices. Betty, we searched the U-Haul. It was empty except for moving blankets, a dolly, and a bunch of boxes. He was really going to do it. What happens now? Now he sits in jail until his arraignment. Given that he violated a direct court order, bail is going to be steep. And Betty, this is his 3rd offense related to your property. The prosecutor is taking this seriously. We're looking at felony charges. That night, Diane called me. Not Marcus, but Diane. Her voice was ragged, desperate. Betty, they arrested Marcus. He's in jail. The bail is $50,000. We don't have that kind of money. Our credit cards are maxed. The home equity line is tapped out. I don't know what to do. Please, you have to help. I have to help? He's your son. You can't just let him sit in jail. Diane, I told him to stop. I got a court order telling him to stop. I had multiple moving companies refuse his requests and warn him this was illegal. He chose to hire criminals off Craigslist and break into my house anyway. Those are his choices. These are his consequences. But Betty, what about Emma? What am I supposed to tell her? That her father's in jail because her grandmother won't help? Tell her the truth, that her father broke the law, that actions have consequences, that loving someone doesn't mean protecting them from the results of their choices. You're really going to do this. You're really going to destroy your own family. I'm really going to protect myself from people who are stealing from me. If that destroys the family, it's because the family was built on my willingness to be a victim. I'm not willing anymore. Diane started crying, ugly, desperate sobs. We're going to lose everything. The house, the cars, everything. Marcus could go to prison. Our lives are over. Are you happy? Is this what you wanted? What I wanted was to live in my own home, manage my own affairs, and be treated with basic respect. Your husband decided that was too much to ask. These consequences are his fault, not mine. I hate you, Diane whispered. I hate you so much. I know, I said, but I'm still not going to let you rob me. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet of my beige room and let myself feel the full weight of what was happening. My son was in jail. My daughter-in-law hated me. My granddaughter Emma was probably confused and scared. My family was shattered beyond repair, and I still believed I was doing the right thing, because the alternative was letting them win, letting them take my house, my belongings, my autonomy, my dignity, letting them prove that being elderly meant being powerless. I wouldn't do it, no matter the cost. Margaret called an hour later. Marcus's arraignment is tomorrow. The prosecutor is asking for continued detention without bail given his repeated violations of court orders. Judge Anderson is presiding. Betty, this could go very badly for him, or very well for me. That's one way to look at it. Are you sure you want to proceed with the criminal charges? This is your last chance to drop them, to work out some kind of family resolution. I thought about Mike Rodriguez, who'd protected me because it was right. I thought about Tom Chin and the 16 other moving company owners who'd refused Marcus's money. I thought about Carol, recording everything to keep me safe. I thought about all the strangers who'd shown me more loyalty than my own son. I'm sure, I said. File everything. Let the prosecutor proceed. If Marcus ends up in prison, it's because he chose crime over respect. All right then. Tomorrow we go to war. But I wasn't going to war. I was just standing my ground. There's a difference. Marcus's arraignment was at 9 a.m. in Judge Anderson's courtroom. I attended, sitting in the back row, watching my son shuffle in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked terrible. 3 days in jail had aged him, hollowed him out. When he saw me, something flickered across his face. Not anger, not defiance, but something that looked almost like relief. Like despite everything, part of him still believed his mother would save him. I wasn't going to save him. Judge Anderson was not in a forgiving mood. Mr. Patterson, this is your third appearance before me in 2 months. First, a guardianship petition that was denied. Then, a contempt hearing for removing property despite a cease and desist. Now, criminal charges for attempted burglary while under a direct court order not to approach the property. Counselor, she looked at Marcus's public defender, a tired-looking man in his 30s. Does your client have anything to say? The public defender stood. Your Honor, my client maintains that he was acting in what he believed was his mother's best interest. He was concerned about her safety, about the property being maintained, about items being protected. He acknowledges that his methods were inappropriate, but his intent was never malicious. His intent was to violate my direct order, Judge Anderson said flatly. Intent to help does not excuse breaking and entering. It does not excuse hiring unlicensed individuals to forcibly remove property. It does not excuse repeated violations of legal directives. Mr. Patterson, stand up. Marcus stood, shoulders slumped. I have been a judge for 26 years. I have seen children steal from their parents out of desperation, addiction, mental illness. I have some sympathy for those cases. But Mr. Patterson, you are an employed project manager with a comfortable life who decided that your elderly mother's autonomy was less important than your convenience. You didn't act out of desperation, you acted out of arrogance. And when the legal system told you to stop, you continued. That shows contempt, not just for this court, but for your mother's basic human rights. Your Honor, please. Marcus's voice cracked. I made mistakes. I know that, but I love my mother. I was scared for her. I just wanted her safe. Then you should have listened when she told you she was fine. You should have respected her repeated statements that she did not want your help. You should have honored the legal boundaries that were established. Patterson, love does not give you the right to override another person's clearly stated wishes. That's not love. That's control. Judge Anderson looked at the prosecutor. Bail recommendation. The state requests a $100,000 bail. Your Honor, the defendant has shown a pattern of violating court orders. He poses a continued threat to the victim and her property. Your Honor, my client doesn't have that kind of money, the public defender protested. He has a wife and daughter who need him. He has a job he'll lose if he remains incarcerated. He should have thought about that before he hired criminals to break into his mother's house. Bail is set at $100,000. Mr. Patterson, if you make bail, you are prohibited from any contact with your mother, direct or indirect. You may not approach her property. You may not contact her by phone, email, text, or through third parties. Violation will result in immediate revocation of bail and additional charges. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Preliminary hearing is set for 3 weeks from today. Mr. Patterson, I suggest you use that time to think very carefully about your choices. Marcus was led away. He looked back at me once, his eyes pleading. I looked away. Outside the courtroom, Margaret was jubilant. $100,000 bail. He'll never make that. Betty, he's staying in jail until trial. How long will that take? Months, probably. Maybe longer if it goes to trial, instead of a plea deal. But Betty, I think he'll plead. The evidence is overwhelming. He was caught in the act by police. We have video. We have testimony from moving company owners. We have the court orders he violated. His public defender is going to strongly advise him to take a plea. What kind of sentence are we looking at? For burglary, violation of court orders, elder abuse. If he pleads guilty, probably 2 to 3 years with possibility of parole. If he fights it and loses at trial, could be 5 to 7. I felt dizzy. Years. In prison. Betty, he broke into your house. He hired people to steal from you. He did this after being explicitly told by a judge not to. These are serious crimes. I know. I never thought it would go this far. He took it this far. You just refused to be a victim. That night, Emma called me. Not Diane, not Marcus's phone, but Emma's own tablet. Her face appeared on my screen, small and scared. Grandma Betty. Hi, sweetheart. Is Daddy really in jail? I closed my eyes briefly. Yes, baby. He is. Mommy says it's your fault. She says you called the police on Daddy and now he can't come home. Emma, your daddy broke some rules. Very serious rules. The police arrested him because he did something wrong, not because I called them. Do you understand? Mommy says Daddy was just trying to help you. Sometimes people say they're helping when they're actually hurting. Your daddy was taking things from my house without aching. That's called stealing, even when family does it. Are you mad at Daddy? I'm very disappointed in him, and very sad that he made choices that hurt both of us. Are you mad at me? My heart broke. Oh, Emma. No, never. You didn't do anything wrong. None of this is your fault. Will you still be my grandma? Always. Forever. No matter what happens with your daddy. You're still my granddaughter and I still love you. Can I still visit you? I would love that. We'll have to figure out how to make it work with your mommy. But yes, I want to see you. After we hung up, I cried. Not for Marcus, not for the broken family, but for Emma. 7 years old, and trying to understand why her father was in jail and why her family was falling apart. but I couldn't fix this for her by enabling her father's crimes. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for a child is teach them that actions have consequences, even when those consequences hurt people you love. Mike Rodriguez called that evening. Betty, I heard about the arraignment. $100,000 bail. That's serious. He violated a court order while under surveillance with hired criminals. What did he expect? I don't think he expected anything. I think he was desperate, and desperate people don't think clearly. Betty, I want you to know something. I've been doing this for 28 years. I've seen a lot of family situations. And what you're doing, standing your ground, it's not easy. Most people fold. Most people say it's just stuff, or family is more important, and they let themselves be robbed because the alternative is too painful. This is painful. I know, but it's the right kind of pain. The pain of setting boundaries, of demanding respect, of refusing to be a victim. That pain heals. The pain of being stolen from, dismissed, controlled by your own family. That pain just festered. Mike, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you really call me that morning? The truth. He was quiet for a moment. My mother died 3 years ago. She was living alone, sharp as ever, managing fine. But my sister kept pushing her to sell her house, move into a facility, let us handle things. My mother resisted, said she was fine, said she wanted to stay in her home. My sister didn't listen, got a lawyer, filed for guardianship, claimed Mom was declining. What happened? Mom had a stroke, right in the middle of the legal fight. The stress, the fear of losing her home, her autonomy, it just broke something in her. She died 2 weeks later, and Betty, I will never forgive my sister for that. She stole our mother's last years trying to control her. When your son called me that morning, describing his plan, I heard my sister's voice. I heard that same certainty, that they know better, that they have the right to override an elderly person's wishes. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't help another child steal from their parent. I'm sorry about your mother. Me too. But Betty, you're not her. You're fighting. You're standing up. And I'm honored to be a small part of that. After we hung up, I thought about Mike's mother, about how fear of losing autonomy had literally killed her, about how the stress of being dismissed, controlled, overridden by people who claimed to love her, had been too much for her body to bear. I thought about how close I'd come to that same fate. If I hadn't hired Margaret, if I hadn't documented everything, if I hadn't found the courage to fight back, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that I'd made the right choice. Even if it meant my son went to prison, even if it meant my family was destroyed, even if it meant Emma grew up confused about why Grandma had sent Daddy to jail, because the alternative was slowly dying in a beige room, watching my life be sold off while I still breathed, becoming the ghost of myself to make my family more comfortable. I wasn't going to be a ghost. I was going to be alive, in my own home, on my own terms, for however many years I had left. And no one, not even my own son, had the right to take that from me. 3 weeks later, Marcus took a plea deal. His public defender called Margaret, who called me. He's pleading guilty to attempted burglary, violation of court orders, and elder financial abuse. In exchange, the prosecutor is recommending 30 months in prison with possibility of parole after 18 months. He'll also be required to pay restitution for the items he previously stole, the damage to your property, and your legal fees. How much restitution? We're still calculating, but probably around $75,000. The items from storage, the cost of changing locks multiple times, the property damage from his attempted break-ins, your legal fees, the cost of professional appraisals, it adds up. He doesn't have that kind of money. I know, which means he'll be making payments for years, possibly decades. Every month, he'll be reminded that stealing from you cost him everything. In the house items he already took, all items in the storage unit must be returned within 30 days or he faces additional charges. Betty, you're getting everything back. The plea hearing was scheduled for the following week. I didn't attend. I couldn't watch my son stand in front of a judge and admit to crimes against his own mother. It was too much. But Carol went. She wanted to see justice served, she said. Wanted to witness the moment Marcus faced consequences. She called me immediately after. Betty. It was intense. Marcus cried. Actually sobbed when he pled guilty. Diane was there, crying too. Emma wasn't. Thank God. The judge asked Marcus if he understood what he was pleading guilty to, and he said yes. Asked if anyone had forced him to take this plea, and he said no. Then the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing. What did he say? He said, "I'm sorry. To my mother, to the court, to my family. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was wrong. I let fear and financial pressure turn me into someone I don't recognize. I stole from the person who gave me everything. I hurt the woman who raised me, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life." Betty, he sounded genuinely remorseful. Remorseful enough to actually change? Or just remorseful that he got caught? I don't know, but the judge seemed moved. She accepted the plea deal, but added a condition. When Marcus gets out, he has to complete a program on elder abuse and financial crimes, has to attend therapy addressing his controlling behavior, has to write you a letter of apology that goes through the court, not directly to you. She's trying to rehabilitate him, not just punish him. That's more than he deserves. Maybe. But Betty, it's also more than a lot of judges would do. Judge Anderson sees something salvageable in him. Whether she's right, only time will tell. That night, Margaret brought me paperwork to sign. The civil settlement. In addition to the criminal restitution, Marcus and Diane were also settling the civil case. They were signing over any claim to my house, agreeing never to file for guardianship again, accepting a permanent restraining order that would remain in effect unless I specifically revoked it. You won, Margaret said. Completely. Betty, you protected your home, your assets, your autonomy, and your dignity. You took on your own family, and you won. Why doesn't it feel like winning? Because loving someone and holding them accountable are both painful. You're doing both. That's hard. After Margaret left, I sat with the settlement papers spread across my bed, legal language that translated to, I was right. Marcus was wrong. The house was mine. My life was mine. No one could force me out, control me, or override my wishes ever again. I'd won. But my family was destroyed. My son was going to prison. My granddaughter was traumatized. My daughter-in-law would probably never speak to me again. Was it worth it? I thought about the alternative. Living in Meadowbrook forever. Watching my house be sold. Losing everything I'd built. Becoming invisible in my own life. Yes, it was worth it. The next day, the storage unit was delivered. Carol and Mike Rodriguez both offered to help me go through it. We spent 6 hours sorting through boxes, checking items against my inventory, making sure everything was accounted for. Most of it was there. Some picture frames were cracked. Some books had water damage. But the important things, the irreplaceable things, they'd survive. Your son is an idiot, Mike said, looking at a box of old photographs. These are priceless. Family history. And he was going to what? Throw them away? Sell them? He didn't see value in anything unless it had a price tag. Sentimental value didn't count. Then he missed the point of everything. We finished around 7 p.m. My living room was cluttered with boxes, but it was my clutter, my things, my life returned to me. After Mike and Carol left, I sat in my own house, in my own chair, surrounded by my own belongings. For the first time in 3 months, I was home. Not in a facility, not in a beige room, not in a place someone else had chosen for me. Home. I called Margaret. When can I officially move back in? You can move back in any time. The court order prohibits Marcus from the property. Not you. Betty, you were never legally required to stay at Meadowbrook. You can leave whenever you want. Tomorrow then. I'm coming home tomorrow. I'll help you move. Margaret, why did you take my case? Pro bono? I know. You could have charged me thousands. Why didn't you? She was quiet for a moment. Because I'm 70, Betty, and I see what's coming. My own children are starting to have conversations about whether I should still be living alone, whether I should still be working, whether I'm managing my life appropriately. I took your case because if I don't fight for you, who's going to fight for me when it's my turn? We have to protect each other. That's how this works. After we hung up, I walked through my house, room by room, seeing it with fresh eyes. The scratches on the floor where Marcus had dragged furniture, the broken lock on the back door from his attempted break-in, the empty spaces where items hadn't been returned, but also the stained glass windows catching afternoon light, the garden visible through the kitchen window, the chair where Robert used to read the paper, the banister I'd held while teaching Marcus to walk as a toddler. This house held pain now, but it also held 50 years of good memories, and I wasn't going to let Marcus's betrayal erase that. I was home, and I was staying. 18 months later, Marcus was released on parole. I found out not from him, but from a letter delivered by the court. Part of his parole conditions required him to complete the apology letter Judge Anderson had mandated. The letter was 3 pages long, handwritten, probably revised dozens of times. I read it standing at my kitchen counter, coffee getting cold beside me. Dear Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I forgive myself, but Judge Anderson says I have to write this. And honestly, I've been trying to find the words for 18 months. I stole from you, not just objects, but dignity, autonomy, the right to make your own choices. I told myself I was helping you, but I was really just trying to control you because I was scared. Scared of losing you, scared of financial failure, scared of admitting I didn't have all the answers. Prison gave me a lot of time to think, to realize that my fear of you dying alone was really about me not being able to handle loss, that my concern about the house was really about my debt, that my need to manage your life was really about feeling out of control of my own. I learned about elder abuse in the therapy program, learned that most people who abuse elderly family members genuinely believe they're helping, that good intentions don't excuse bad actions, that love without respect is just another form of control. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back the months you spent at Meadowbrook. I can't erase the fear I caused or the trust I destroyed. But I want you to know I understand now what I couldn't see then. You were never the problem. I was. You were a competent, intelligent woman who knew what she wanted and had every right to make her own decisions. I was the one who couldn't accept that being elderly doesn't mean being incompetent. I was the one who chose control over respect. I'm sorry, Mom, for all of it. For the theft, the lies, the betrayal, for making you fight your own son just to live in peace. For teaching Emma that it's okay to override someone's wishes if you claim to know better. For everything. I don't expect you to respond to this letter. I don't expect reconciliation. You owe me nothing. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I did, and I'm carrying that weight every day. Marcus. I set the letter down and stared out the window at my garden. The roses needed pruning. The lawn needed mowing. All the little maintenance tasks that Marcus had claimed I couldn't handle, but I'd been handling them fine for 18 months. With Carol's help sometimes, with hired help other times, but managing, living independently, proving every day that Marcus had been wrong about me. The doorbell rang. I almost didn't answer, but when I checked the peephole, I saw Emma. Not with Diane, but with Rebecca, Diane's sister who'd been raising her since Marcus went to prison. I opened the door. Grandma. Emma practically tackled me. She'd grown so much. Almost 9 now, taller, face losing its baby roundness. Hi, sweetheart. This is a surprise. Rebecca smiled apologetically. Sorry for the unannounced visit. Emma's been asking to see you for months. Today she just insisted, said she needed to talk to you about something important. Come in, both of you. We sat in the living room. The same living room where this had all started, where Marcus had first told me I needed to move, but now it was mine again, comfortable, and lived in, and home. Emma looked nervous. Grandma, Daddy came to see me last week. He did? How was that? Weird. He cried a lot. Told me he made mistakes. Said he hurt you really bad and he was sorry. She looked at me with those serious two old eyes. Grandma, did Daddy really steal from you? I wouldn't lie to her. Yes, baby. He did. Mommy says you sent him to prison for nothing. That you were being mean and stubborn. But Aunt Rebecca says Daddy broke the law, and you were just protecting yourself. Who's right? Rebecca started to interject, but I held up a hand. Emma, can I tell you a story? She nodded. When your daddy was about your age, he had a friend named Tyler. Tyler was always borrowing things from your daddy. Toys, books, games, and your daddy always let him because they were friends. But one day, Tyler took your daddy's favorite baseball card without asking, the special one from his grandfather. Your daddy was really upset. Do you know what I told him? What? I told him that friends don't take things without asking, that even people who love you need to respect your boundaries, and that if Tyler wouldn't give the card back, your daddy had every right to tell Tyler's parents and ask for help getting it back. Do you understand what I'm saying? That even family has to respect your stuff. Exactly. Your daddy forgot that lesson when he grew up. He started taking things from my house without asking. Important things. And when I told him to stop, he didn't. So I had to ask for help, just like I taught him to do when he was little. But he went to jail, because taking things without permission is against the law. Even when you're family, even when you say you're trying to help, your daddy made a choice to break the law. The consequences of that choice were his to face, not mine to prevent. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then, Aunt Rebecca says you're brave, that you stood up for yourself even though it was hard. Your aunt is very kind. Grandma, do you still love Daddy? The question I'd been dreading. I love the person your daddy could be. The person he was before he let fear and money problems turn him into someone who steals. I hope that person comes back someday. But Emma, I can't let someone hurt me just because I love them. Love doesn't mean letting people hurt you. Will you ever talk to Daddy again? Maybe. Someday. If he shows me through his actions, not just his words, that he's changed. But sweetheart, that's not your responsibility. You can love both of us. You can have a relationship with your daddy without it affecting your relationship with me. After Emma and Rebecca left, I sat with Marcus's letter. Read it again. Tried to find insincerity in the words. Tried to find manipulation. Tried to find anything that would let me dismiss it. But I couldn't. The letter sounded genuinely remorseful. Not just sorry he got caught, but sorry for what he'd done. Did that change anything? I didn't know yet. What I did know was that I was okay. Living in my house, managing my life, connected to Emma despite everything. Supported by friends like Carol and Mike and Margaret. I'd survived my family's betrayal and come out stronger. A year later, I got another letter. This time not court-mandated, just a note in the mail. Mom, I don't know if you read my last letter. I don't know if you'll read this one. But I'm writing anyway. I've been out of prison for 6 months. I got a job in construction, much humbler than my old position, but honest work. Diane and I divorced. She couldn't forgive me for ruining our lives, as she put it. We share custody of Emma. I've been attending a support group for people who've committed crimes against family members. There are more of us than you'd think. People who thought they were helping but were really just controlling. People who learned too late that good intentions don't excuse bad actions. I'm learning to live with what I did. Some days are easier than others. The hardest part is knowing I hurt the person who taught me right from wrong in the first place. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not even asking for it. I just want you to know that I think about you every day. That I hope you're well. That I'm proud of you for standing up to me. Even though it was hard. You taught me one last lesson, Mom. You taught me that elderly people deserve respect, autonomy, and the presumption of competency. I just wish I'd learned it before I destroyed our relationship. If you ever want to meet for coffee, no pressure, I'd like that. If you never want to see me again, I understand that too. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. Because I finally learned what respect actually means. Your son, Marcus. I set the letter down and thought about it for a long time. Did I want to see Marcus? Did I believe he'd changed? Could I ever trust him again? I didn't have answers. But for the first time in 2 years, I had questions that didn't fill me with dread. Maybe that was enough for now. 6 months after that, I called him. We met at a neutral coffee shop, both nervous, both careful. You look good, Mom. So do you. We talked for an hour. Surface things mostly. His job. Emma's school. The weather. We didn't talk about the past, about the theft, about the 18 months he spent in prison. But at the end, as we were leaving, Marcus said, "Thank you for meeting me. I know I don't deserve it." You're right. You don't. I'm not doing this for you, Marcus. I'm doing it for me, to see if forgiveness is possible. I don't know yet if it is. That's fair. We met again a month later, then 2 months after that. Slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something. Not the mother-son relationship we'd had before. That was gone, shattered beyond repair. But maybe something new. Something built on honesty instead of assumption. On respect instead of obligation. On Marcus actually listening when I spoke instead of deciding he knew better. It would never be the same. I would never fully trust him again. But maybe, eventually, we could be in each other's lives without it being a battlefield. Emma helped. She needed both of us, and watching Marcus interact with her, I could see he was trying. Really trying to be better. Not perfect, not transformed, but making genuine effort. And maybe that was all I could ask for. 3 years after this all began, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. Carol came. Margaret came. Mike Rodriguez and his mother came. Emma came with Rebecca, and Marcus came, bringing store-bought pie because I'd made it clear he wasn't to presume to bring anything else without explicit permission. It was small. It was awkward at times, but it was my home, my terms, my choice of who to invite, and that made all the difference. After everyone left, I sat in my living room, in my house that I'd fought for, surrounded by my belongings that I'd protected, living my life that I'd refused to surrender. Had it been worth it? The legal battles, the family destruction, the pain. I looked around at my home, still mine, still on my terms, still a place where I made the decision. Yes, it had been worth it, because the alternative was slowly disappearing, becoming invisible, letting fear and control masquerade as love. And I'd refused to disappear. I was 75 years old, still living independently, still managing my own affairs, still proving every single day that Marcus had been wrong about me. Mike Rodriguez called that evening. "Betty, how was Thanksgiving?" "Complicated, beautiful, hard, everything I needed it to be." That's life, isn't it? Complicated and beautiful at the same time. He paused. "I wanted to tell you something. Remember when I said I helped you because of what happened to my mother? I remember. You inspired something. A program I'm starting with other moving company owners. We're training our crews to recognize signs of elder abuse, teaching them to ask questions when someone wants to clear out an elderly person's home, creating a network so families like yours can't just shop around until they find someone who'll help them steal." "Mike, that's wonderful. It's because of you. Because you fought back. Because you showed that one person standing up can make a difference. Betty, you didn't just save yourself. You're helping save others." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my home and let myself feel everything. The grief for what I'd lost. The pride in what I'd protected. The hope for what might still be possible. My son had tried to erase me, to package up my life and dispose of it like garbage. But strangers had protected me. Good people with integrity had chosen right over profit, and I had found the courage to fight when it would have been easier to surrender. This house stood as proof that I mattered, that elderly people have rights, that being a parent doesn't mean letting your children steal from you, that love without respect is just another word for control. I was home. I was free. I was exactly where I belonged. And I had won not by destroying Marcus, but by refusing to let him destroy me. That was the real victory. Not revenge, but survival. Not punishment, but boundaries. Not hate, but the fierce, unshakable insistence that I deserved dignity, autonomy, and respect. I'd fought my own family, and won. And in doing so, I'd taught them the most important lesson of all. You're never too old to matter. Never too old to fight back. Never too old to stand your ground and say no. I raised my evening tea in a silent toast. To Mike Rodriguez, who'd made that first call. To Margaret Chen, who'd fought beside me. To Carol, who'd documented everything. To Judge Anderson, who'd seen through the lies. To all the moving company owners who'd said no to Marcus's money. And to myself, for finding the strength to stand up when it would have been easier to lie down. I was 75 years old, and I was just getting started.